The Heartless Princess and the Human Prisoner. Princess Silara stood tall in the center of her warship. Her silver armor shined under the bright lights. Soldiers around her bowed as she walked by. She was not just a princess. She was a warrior, a legend, a name that brought fear across the galaxy. She had no friends, no weakness, no mercy. They called her the Heartless Flame. That morning, her ship had captured something rare, a human. A lone man, found hiding near the ruins of an old Earth station. Humans were dangerous, her people said. Clever liars, weak in body, but strong in tricks. Still, Silara was curious. She had never seen a human up close. The guards brought him in, his hands locked with glowing cuffs. He was tall, with messy brown hair and calm green eyes. He didn't look scared. He didn't beg. Silara raised her chin. "You are Jace Carter of Earth." The man nodded. "Yes, Your Highness." That caught her attention. He said it with respect, not fear. He didn't tremble. He didn't look away. Silara circled him slowly. "Do you know who I am?" "I do," Jace said. "You're the princess who burned 6 worlds. The one who doesn't smile." The guards tensed, waiting for her to punish him. But Silara just narrowed her eyes. "And yet you smile." Jace gave a soft chuckle. "You're not as scary as they say." That one sentence made the room go silent. No one ever spoke to her like that. Silara stared at him. She didn't know whether to laugh or strike him, but something in his voice was different. Not mocking, just honest. "Put him in the lower cell," she said at last. "I'll speak with him again." The next day, she returned. The cell was cold, made of thick energy walls. Jace sat on the floor, drawing lines with his finger in the dust. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Making stars," he said. "My stars. From back home." Silara frowned. "You were captured. You may die soon. Why play like a child?" Jace looked up. "Because it helps me remember what's worth living for." Silara paused. No one had ever said something like that to her before. She stepped closer. "Tell me about Earth." So he did. He told her about green forests, tall mountains, soft rain, and loud birds. He spoke of oceans that sang, winds that danced, and nights full of lights in the sky. Silara listened without a word. Her planet had none of that. Valerie was made of fire and stone, beautiful, but harsh, like her. "You miss your home?" she asked. "Every day," Jace said, "but I don't regret being here." "Why?" He smiled. "Because now I've seen something more rare than a star. A princess who's not afraid of war, but afraid of herself." Silara's eyes flashed. "Careful. I'm not wrong," Jace said softly. She turned and walked away. But his words followed her like a shadow. That night, Silara sat alone in her chamber. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. No smile, no tears, just cold eyes. She thought of Jace's stories. She thought of her own life. At 5, she was trained to fight. At 10, she learned to kill. At 15, she led her first invasion. Now, at 23, she ruled with fear, but never felt peace. No one ever asked her what she wanted. Not until now. The next day, she visited Jace again. He stood up when he saw her. "Back so soon?" "You think I'm weak?" she asked. "No," he said. "I think you're tired." That made her pause. Jace looked at her gently. "You carry too much. I can see it in your eyes." She stepped close to the energy wall. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" He smiled. "Because you don't want to hurt me." "How do you know?" "Because if you did," he said, "you wouldn't be here talking. You'd already be done with me." Silara didn't answer. For the first time in years, she didn't know what to say. Later, one of her generals entered her chamber. "Your Highness," he said, bowing low. "The human must be executed soon. The people are watching. They want blood." Silara stared out the window at the stars. She was silent for a long time. Then she said, "Prepare the chamber. Tomorrow at sunrise." But her voice didn't sound proud. It sounded hollow. That night, Jace whispered something through the cell wall. A sound. A song. A quiet melody from Earth. Soft, gentle. Sielara stood outside, listening. Her hand touched the wall. Her eyes closed. And for the first time in her life, the heartless princess felt something strange in her chest. Something warm. Something dangerous. Something like a heart. The princess who couldn't break him. The halls of the worship were quiet. Princess Sielara walked slowly, her armor echoing softly with each step. She didn't like how she felt. Something was different. Something she couldn't name. She was known across 10 galaxies as the Heartless Flame. But now, a human sat quietly in her prison, humming songs and making her question everything she had ever believed. It was wrong. It was dangerous. And yet it was the only thing that felt real. The interrogation chamber, day 2. She entered without warning. No guards. No loud announcement. Jace Carter looked up from his cell floor. He had drawn more star patterns in the dust again, little dots connected with soft lines. He smiled when he saw her. "You came back." Sielara frowned. "You say that like it's a good thing." "It is," he said, standing up. "You could have sent someone else. But you didn't." "I wanted answers." Jace tilted his head. "Or maybe you wanted truth." Sielara stepped closer to the energy wall. The light buzzed between them, separating royalty from prisoner. Power from powerlessness. Or maybe not. "You said something yesterday," she said. "You said I was tired." "Why?" Jace didn't look afraid. "Because you are." Sielara stared at him. "You know nothing about me." "I know your eyes," Jace said. "I've seen them before. On soldiers who fought too long. On mothers who lost everything. On leaders who had no choice." Sielara's fists clenched. She wanted to tell him he was wrong. She couldn't. Flashback. The training ground, years ago. Sielara was 10 years old. She stood in the fire pits, blindfolded, fighting with a metal staff. Her opponent was twice her size. Her arms shook. Her legs were cut. Her eyes burned with tears she wasn't allowed to shed. "You will not cry," her trainer shouted. "You will not feel. You are Valerie. You are above emotion." She fell to the ground, gasping. The trainer struck her again. "Rise or die." And so she rose. Not because she wanted to, but because she had no other choice. Back in the present. "You think I'm weak," Sielara whispered. Jace stepped closer to the energy wall, careful not to touch it. "No. I think you're strong. But I think you've forgotten why you became strong." She didn't reply. Instead, she sat down on the cold floor outside his cell. For the first time, the Princess of Valerie sat across from a prisoner, as if they were equals. "Tell me more about your planet," she said. So he did. He told her about the sound of thunder in the rain, and the way the wind would blow through tall trees. He spoke of sunsets that turned the sky orange and pink, and of a little dog he used to have named Milo who barked at shadows. Sielara listened in silence. She tried to imagine it, a world not ruled by fear, but by simple things. Laughter, rain, pets. No war, no orders, no walls. "Do you miss it?" she asked softly. Jace nodded. "Every day. But right now, I don't mind being here." She looked up. "Why?" He smiled again. That same soft smile that didn't belong in a cell. "Because I get to see you, Sielara." She froze. He had never used her name before, and he said it like it was a secret, like it was something beautiful, not something feared. No one had ever said her name like that. Later that night, the royal quarters. Sielara stood by her window, staring at the stars. She should feel powerful. She commanded ships, armies, planets. But all she could think of was a human in a cell talking about rain and dogs and wind. She touched the glass. "Why does your voice stay with me?" she whispered to the night. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "Humans are dangerous. They lie with smiles. They make you forget who you are." Was that what was happening? Or was she finally remembering who she used to be? The council room, the next morning. Her father, Emperor Droth, sat on his throne. His eyes were cold, his voice sharp. "The human must die before the next eclipse," he said. "The people demand justice. They grow hungry for blood." Silara stood before him, armor shining, but her mind clouded. "He has given no threats," she said. "That is the threat," the Emperor said. "He confuses you, like the rest of his kind. Their weakness spreads like poison." Silara's jaw tightened. "He is not weak." The room fell silent. She had spoken out. That was rare. Dangerous. The Emperor narrowed his eyes. "Are you questioning my judgment?" Silara bowed her head. "No, father. I only ask for one more day." "One," he said. "Then you will do what must be done. Or I will." The Garden of Stone. That night, Silara brought Jace out of the cell under heavy guard, but told them to wait far away. They sat under the strange glowing trees, a quiet place meant for warriors who died in battle. "You asked me once why I became strong," she said. Jace nodded. She took a slow breath. "It was because I was never allowed to be weak." She looked up at him, and her voice cracked just a little. "They taught me pain before they taught me love. They trained me in weapons before I learned words. They told me feelings were for slaves, that mercy was for fools." Jace didn't speak. He just listened. And in that silence, she felt safe. "I don't know who I am anymore," she admitted. Jace gently said, "Maybe you're someone new." She looked at him. "But what if they're right? What if you're here to break me?" He leaned closer, still behind the energy shield around the garden's edge. "I don't want to break you," he said. "I want you to feel whole." Final scene. The night before judgment. The guards locked Jace away again. But this time, Silara didn't walk away immediately. She stood in front of his cell, staring, breathing, trying to speak, but no words came. Jace saw the struggle in her eyes. "You don't have to say anything," he whispered. Silara's voice was raw. "I don't want you to die." "I know." "Then what do I do?" He placed his palm on the glass wall between them. "I trust you," he said, "even if no one else does. Even if you don't trust yourself." She closed her eyes and touched her hand to his, separated by the glowing wall. One heartbeat. Two. Then she whispered, "Sleep well, Jace," and walked away into the shadows. But in the silence of her chamber, she didn't sleep at all. Because the heartless princess wasn't heartless anymore. She was human too. And in the morning, she would have to choose between duty and love. Escape without running. The sun rose over the warship, but no warmth reached the metal walls. Princess Silara stood by the execution chamber, dressed in black armor instead of silver. Her helmet rested under her arm. Her heart, if she still had one, beat too loudly in her chest. Guards stood ready. The high priest waited with a blade glowing blue with judgment. Today was the day Jace Carter, the human, was supposed to die. The people below, watching the event through transmission screens, wanted a show of power. The Emperor demanded loyalty. But Silara only thought of one thing. His eyes. Calm, green, and filled with belief. In her. An hour earlier, the garden tunnel. Silara walked quickly through the hidden tunnels beneath the palace level. Her long cloak dragged across the dust-covered floors. She held a small glowing cube in her palm. A key to something forbidden. To something final. She reached the prison doors. The guards looked surprised. "Leave," she ordered. They hesitated. "But, Your Highness." She raised her voice. "Now, They obeyed. The moment they disappeared, she placed the cube on the wall. It glowed red, then green. With a soft hiss, the energy shield lowered. Jace stepped back, surprised. "What's going on?" "You're leaving," she said. "But I thought I was supposed to kill you," she said flatly. "Instead, I'm setting you free." Jace didn't move. His eyes searched hers. "Why?" Lara looked away. "Because I can't lose the only person who ever looked at me like I was more than a crown." He stepped forward, lowering his voice. "Come with me." Her breath caught. "I can't." "You can. I have people who depend on me." "No," Jace said. "You have people who fear you. That's not the same." Silence. Then Lara handed him a small metal chip. "This will unlock a ship in Hangar 9. It's cloaked. You can escape the border." Jace looked down at the chip, then back up at her. "And you?" She looked at him for a long moment. "I'll stay." His voice broke. "Don't. If I leave now, my father will send fleets. There'll be war. You won't survive. I have to stay and delay them. I'm the only one who can." He swallowed hard. "You might die," he said. She smiled softly. "I've never really lived, Jace. But maybe setting you free is the first real thing I've ever done." He reached out. She stepped forward. Their hands touched, barely, before the sound of boots echoed through the hall. "Go," she whispered. He ran. She stayed. Now, the execution chamber. The priest stood ready. "Bring in the prisoner," he said. Lara didn't speak. She just kept her eyes on the door. A moment later, the guards rushed in, pale and panting. "He's gone," one shouted. The human escaped. Gasps filled the room. The Emperor's voice roared through the palace speakers. "Find him." Lara didn't flinch. She turned slowly toward the high priest. "I warned you," she said coldly. "Humans are not weak. They're unexpected." Then she turned and walked away, leaving the chamber in chaos. Hangar 9. Mid-escape. Jace sprinted toward the small black ship, hidden behind heavy cargo. The ship shimmered with a near-invisible shield, cloaking tech stolen from Valor's own vault. He entered the code. The door opened. Alarms blared in the distance. He jumped inside, closing the hatch just as soldiers turned the corner behind him. Lasers hit the ship's shell. Sparks flew. The engines roared. He grabbed the controls. Come on. The ship lifted. The hangar doors cracked open. And in a flash of blue light, he was gone, back in the throne room. The Emperor stood like a black mountain, eyes burning with rage. "You let him escape." Lara stood tall, but silent. "You dishonor your blood." She spoke finally. "I saved us from something worse." "From what?" "From becoming monsters," she said. He was not the enemy. The Emperor raised his hand. A guard struck her from behind. She dropped to her knees, but she did not cry out. She smiled, because Jace was free. In deep space, hours later, Jace sat in the pilot's seat, breathing hard. His hands still shook, but in the silence of space he smiled. He thought of her, Lara, the fire in her eyes, the quiet sadness in her voice. He looked at the stars and whispered, "I'll come back for you." Later that night, Lara's cell. The princess was now a prisoner. Her hands were chained, her weapons stripped. She sat alone in the dark, in the same cell where Jace had once sat. She smiled to herself. She could still hear his song, that soft earth melody, that hope. Her people would think she was defeated, but they were wrong. Lara was not broken. She had done something no princess in Valor's history had ever done. She chose love over fear, and deep in her heart she knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of a greater war. But this time, she would fight for something real. For freedom. For herself. For him, the night before the execution, the cell was dark, darker than the rest of the worship. Princess Silara sat alone, back against the cold wall, hands still bruised from the chains that once bound Jace Carter. This was her punishment for betrayal. But she didn't feel defeated. She felt free. No armor, no throne, no voice shouting orders in her ear. For the first time in her life, she wasn't anyone's weapon. Above the cell, the Emperor's private quarters, Emperor Drath paced slowly, his long cloak dragging behind him like a shadow. The room was silent except for the humming of distant engines and the soft flicker of firelight. High General Kale stepped forward. "She helped him escape," Kale said. "I know," Drath replied. "Should we prepare for her execution tomorrow?" The Emperor turned slowly. "No." Kale looked confused. "But publicly, yes. Let them believe she will die. But privately," Drath's eyes narrowed. "We will use her." "Use her?" "She has feelings for the human," Drath said. "That is a weakness, and weaknesses are tools." Back in the cell, midnight. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Silara looked up as the door opened. To her surprise, it wasn't a soldier. It was someone she hadn't seen in years. Princess Vera, her cousin. Royal blood, but softer, quieter. A political figure, not a warrior. Vera stepped inside and knelt beside her. "You're in trouble," Vera whispered. Silara gave a dry smile. "Always am." "They want to use you," Vera said. "Your father plans to let you live, but only if you help capture the human." Zilara's smile faded. "Of course he does." Vera reached into her robe and pulled out a tiny metal disc. "What's that?" Silara asked. "A message," Vera whispered. "From Jace." Silara's heart stopped. Vera pressed the disc into her palm. "Play it when you're alone. Be careful, there are spies in every hallway now." Silara held the disc close. "Why are you helping me?" Vera stood. "Because I'm tired of living in fear. And because for the first time, someone saw you, not the title, not the crown. Just you." And then she was gone. Moments later, the message. Silara pressed the disc to the floor. A soft glow lit the room. A small image flickered to life. Jace, sitting inside the stolen ship. His hair was messy. His voice was soft. "Silara, I don't know if you'll get this, but I had to try." He took a shaky breath. "I'm safe for now, but I won't stay hidden. I can't. Not while you're in danger." He looked away, then back at the screen. "You once told me that you didn't know who you really were. Maybe that's because no one ever gave you the chance to be anyone else. I believe in you. Not the warrior. Not the princess. You. I'll find a way to come back. I don't know how, but I will. And when I do, I hope you're still standing." The image faded. Silara stared at the dark floor. Her eyes burned. She hadn't cried since she was a child. But now, alone in that cold room, listening to the voice of the only person who ever saw her soul, tears finally fell. Silently, powerfully, like the first rain after a long fire. Elsewhere, secret meeting of the Royal Council. The council chamber was buried deep inside the ship, far from public eyes. 12 leaders sat in a circle, politicians, warlords, scientists. All of them old, all of them afraid of change. General Kale stood at the center. "The human must be found," Kale said. "He holds secrets about our war systems. He has learned too much." "And the princess?" one elder asked. Kale's lips curled. "She is infected, emotionally compromised. We either break her mind, or we use her to lure him back." The elders nodded. But one, an old woman with silver eyes, spoke up. "You underestimate her," she said. "She is no longer a tool. She is a flame that burns against us now." Kale ignored her, but the warning hung heavy in the air. Back in the cell, hours before sunrise. Silara sat cross-legged, eyes closed, breathing slow. She remembered every moment. Jace's voice, his eyes, his faith in her. She remembered the first time she killed as a child. The cheers, the pride in her father's voice, the emptiness she felt. She now knew that fear wasn't weakness. It was truth. And love. Love was not a soft thing. It was the strongest shield in the universe. Secretly, the plan begins. Vira moved through the halls quietly, slipping past guards and cameras. She had placed false codes in the system, moved security units to fake threats. She had cleared a landing bay. All for one person. The world thought Silara was beaten, but she was preparing for war. A war for her soul, and maybe for peace. Inside the warship, rising tensions. Whispers spread. The crew was divided. Some believed Silara had gone mad. Others remembered her kindness, her strength, her silence when others shouted. A few even began to question the war. Was it right? Was it necessary? Was the human evil? The seeds of rebellion had been planted, and in the dark, they started to grow. Final scene. The night ends. As the first light of the new cycle touched the edge of space, Silara stood in her cell. She was no longer afraid. Not of her father. Not of death. And not of the feelings inside her. She reached under her collar, where Vera had hidden a second gift, a small crystal blade. Lightweight. Silent. Perfect for one thing. Escape. Enemy of the Empire. The cage was quiet. But inside it, something stirred. Something stronger than steel. Stronger than fear. Princess Silara, daughter of Emperor Droth, opened her eyes before the alarms began. She had not slept. Sleep was for the safe. She was no longer safe. And no longer royal. She was a traitor. A rebel. And soon, she would be an enemy of the Empire. A few hours earlier, inside the cell, the small blade hidden in her collar sparkled with cold blue light. Vera had risked everything to deliver it. Silara held it in her palm. Small, silent, deadly, but not meant to kill. It was meant to cut her chains. She waited until the last patrol passed outside. She counted their steps, the rhythm of duty. Then she moved. In one smooth motion, she sliced the energy cuffs at the exact weak spot. Sparks flew, but the field collapsed. She grabbed the edge of the wall panel, twisted hard, and pulled loose a hidden wire from the back of the control unit. The lights flickered. The shield dropped. She stepped into the hallway, unarmed, but more dangerous than she had ever been. Because this time, she wasn't fighting for power. She was fighting for freedom. Meanwhile, in the throne room, Emperor Droth stood in front of a massive screen watching the stars outside. He had ruled for 30 years, crushed rebellions, destroyed entire planets. But his daughter, she had become the one thing he could never control. Hope. And hope, he knew, was poison. She must be broken, he told General Kale. We cannot allow softness to spread. Kale bowed. Shall I prepare the mind chamber? Yes, Droth said. Erase the girl. Leave only the weapon. Back in the halls, Silara on the move. Silara darted through the tunnels, her memory guiding her. Every corner, every shadow, every security blind spot. They were all part of her childhood training. Now, they would be her escape route. In her ear, a small comm bead buzzed. Vira's voice. You have 14 minutes before they discover your cuffs are offline, she whispered. Bay 12 is clear. I've unlocked the gates. Is the ship ready? Silara asked. It's there, a scout-class interceptor. Fast, unregistered, and built for stealth. What about the signal beacon? Planted, Vera said. They'll think you went the other way. Silara smiled. Good. Tell the guards on deck I'm armed. You're not armed. I will be. 2 levels down. A chance encounter. A soldier spotted her. Princess. Silara didn't answer. The soldier raised his blaster. You're not supposed to be here. She moved fast, faster than any human could see. She knocked the blaster from his hand, spun him around, and slammed him against the wall. He groaned. She took his weapon, paused, and stunned him instead of killing him. Then ran. Security center. The alarm sounds. Cal's face twisted with rage. She's gone, he shouted. Seal the bays. But the deck commander hesitated. Bay 12 was just cleared by Council Order 9. I thought. There is no Council Order 9. Cale slammed his fist on the console. Shut everything down. Now. Bay 12. Seconds from escape. Silara ran full speed, breathing hard. The hangar door slid open as she reached it. And there it was. Her ship. Black and silver, sleek like a blade. Vira's voice came through again. You have 60 seconds. After that, they'll lock the exits. Silara ran toward the ship. But behind her, shouts. Boots. Lasers. A warning shot flew past her shoulder. She didn't turn around. Didn't flinch. Didn't slow. She dove into the cockpit. Hands flying over the controls. The ship roared to life. The doors sealed behind her. Blasters hit the hull. Too late. In open space. A princess no more. The warship behind her grew smaller in the distance. Alarms still echoed in her ears. But in her chest, silence. A new kind. A kind that felt like freedom. She didn't know where she was going. Only that she was done running from herself. Now she was running toward something. Toward truth. Toward Jace. A shadow follows. Unbeknownst to her, another ship launched just seconds after hers. Sleek. Invisible. Tracking her every move. Inside it, General Cale sat still, his eyes locked on the scanner. Let her run, he whispered. Let her think she's free. He leaned forward, voice like poison. She'll lead us straight to the human. Hours later, edge of the Forbidden Zone. Silara's ship coasted toward a red line drawn on every Empire map. The Rift. A region of space too unstable for warships. Too wild for scanners. Too full of ghosts. But she didn't slow down. Because she knew something the Empire didn't. Jace had left her a trail. A faint signal, hidden in old rebel codes. Only someone who understood both sides would have seen it. She had seen it. And now, she was following it. Elsewhere, Jace's safe world. Jace Carter stood on a rocky hill, staring at a quiet sky. The world he found was a ghost planet. Once a human colony, now abandoned. But its systems still worked. The shields. The old scanners. The gardens. He had built a small home from the ruins. And every day, he looked at the stars. Waiting. Hoping. Believing. That she would come. Final moments. A warning and a choice. As Silara entered the outer ring of the rift, her ship systems flickered. Someone was tracking her. Not Empire tech. Not rebels. Something else. Older. Stronger. She took a breath. This was the cost of freedom. Of love. Of choosing her heart over her crown. And she would pay it gladly. Because now, she was not a daughter of a throne. She was not a tool of war. She was something far more dangerous. She was a believer. And belief could shake galaxies. The world that shouldn't exist. The stars bent around her ship as Silara flew deeper into the rift. This part of space was silent, too silent. No signals. No warships. No rules. The Empire called this place cursed. A scar left from the old wars. They said no one survived here. They said nothing lived here. They were wrong. Because in the middle of the rift, floating like a secret kept by the stars, was a small planet. Dark blue. Covered in mist. unmarked on any modern map. It should not exist. But it did. And Silera felt it pull at her like a memory she had never lived. Above the surface, first contact. The ship landed with a soft hiss. The moment her boots touched the ground, Silera felt the change. The air was thick but clean. The wind whispered through silver trees that moved like waves. The ground hummed with power, like something old slept beneath it. She looked around. No buildings, no guards. But in the distance, a flicker of light. She followed it. Meanwhile, Jace waits. Jace Carter sat near a fire, roasting something that looked like a root. His eyes were tired, but he smiled as the wind changed. He stood, looked toward the trees. "She's here," he said. Not a question, not a hope, a truth. The reunion, quiet and powerful. Silera stepped into the clearing. They stood still, staring at each other across the firelight. Neither moved. Neither spoke. Not at first. Then Jace smiled. "Took you long enough." Silara's lips twitched, almost a smile. "You left me behind. You told me to. You could have argued harder. I didn't think you'd listen." "I wouldn't have," she admitted. They both laughed. Soft, tired, but real. Then she crossed the space between them, and he pulled her into his arms. No armor, no power, no fear. Just two people, one from fire, one from earth, finally safe. If only for a moment. The world's secret. A walk through ruins. Later, they walked together through the planet's old ruins. Crumbled buildings, faded flags, human symbols, worn by time. "This was a colony?" Silera asked. Jace nodded. "One of Earth's first. Before the war. Before the Empire. But I thought all early colonies were destroyed by natural storms." Jace stopped. He looked at her carefully. "No, they were destroyed by the Valori Empire." Silera froze. "What?" He pointed to a wall. There, under layers of moss and dust, was a symbol she recognized. The crest of her father. The same one worn by soldiers. By invaders. By her. "They came here," Jace said, "before Earth even knew. They wiped this place out. Said it was too close to Valori space. Too human. Too free." Silara's voice cracked. "Why would they hide it?" "Because this planet proves humans were peaceful explorers," Jace said. "Not threats. Not monsters." He looked at her. "It proves the Empire lied." A memory awakened. The library core. Jace led her into an underground building. The walls were cracked, but one console still glowed. "I restored some of the power," he said. "Watch." He touched the screen. A hologram flickered to life. An old human commander. He spoke calmly. "To anyone who finds this, we came here in peace. We built gardens, homes, schools. We traded with alien travelers. We opened our hearts." The screen shook. Explosions echoed in the distance. Then they came. The Valori. We had no weapons, no shields. They called us invaders. They erased us. Static. Then silence. Silera turned away. Her hand shook. All her life, she had been told the humans fired first, that Earth colonies were full of spies, weapons, threats. But this was a lie, and she had helped spread it. Outside, the enemy watches. Far above the planet, hidden behind a moon, Cal's ship hovered silently. His eyes burned with satisfaction. She led us straight to him. He turned to his men. "Prepare the assault team. We strike at dawn." Back on the surface, the fire that never fades. That night, Silera and Jace sat beside the fire again. She didn't wear her crown. She didn't carry a blade. But something else had grown inside her now. A new strength. "I've killed people," she said. "People who had families. People who never raised a weapon." Jace was quiet. She stared into the flames. I thought I was saving my world. I thought I was protecting us. You were protecting what you were told was true, Jace said. That's not weakness. That's control. She looked at him. So what do I do now? He held her hand. We tell the galaxy the truth. A plan is born. In the ruins, Jace had found more than memories. He had found data, maps, logs, videos, proof that the Empire had lied. Proof the war had never been about defense. It was about control. We send it out, Jace said. Broadcast it through every old rebel channel, every smuggler frequency, every station. Silara nodded. They'll come for us. They're already coming, Jace said. The only question is, will you stand with me when they arrive? Silara didn't even blink. I stood alone my whole life. I'm done with that now. In orbit, the invasion begins. Cal's ships broke through the clouds like shadows falling from the sky. They had one goal: destroy the traitor and erase the truth. Final scene: the choice. As the ground trembled with the first blasts, Jace and Silara stood in front of the console. She loaded the final data packet. He activated the signal. The message began to spread beyond the rift, beyond sensors, into the stars. The truth was free. Even if we fall, Silara said, gripping his hand, we've already won. Above them, fire lit the sky. But below, two hearts stood together. One born of war, one born of peace. And together, they were unstoppable. The princess who chose love. The sky was burning. Flames lit the edges of the world as Valori warships rained fire from the clouds above. Silver trees turned black. Ash danced on the wind like lost feathers. But in the center of it all, two figures stood tall. A princess stripped of her crown, and a human who once sat in chains. They stood together, hand in hand, while the Empire came to erase them. And they were not afraid, because the truth was already free. 30 minutes earlier, the message that shook the stars. Jace's final transmission spread faster than anyone predicted. It leaped across forbidden channels, bounced through rebel networks, passed between smugglers, miners, forgotten scientists, and silent worlds that once bowed to Valori rule. They saw it all. The ruins of the human colony, the crest of the Valori burned into a fallen wall, the silent plea of the last Earth commander before the Empire's betrayal, and the voice of Princess Silara, once the heartless flame, now speaking like no royal had ever dared. They taught me to be a weapon. They never taught me to feel, but now I do. I see you, I believe you, and I will not be silent anymore. People across the galaxy stopped what they were doing. They listened, and for the first time in a generation, they questioned the Empire. Now, the battle for truth begins. Kale stood on the bridge of his lid ship, teeth clenched, eyes locked on the surface below. They've poisoned the system, he growled. We must erase the planet. No survivors. General, the commander beside him said quietly, the message has already spread to 3 systems. The outer colonies are rebelling. Cal's jaw clenched. It doesn't matter. We end this. Now. On the ground, the fight for each other. Jace and Silara moved through the burning ruins, dodging falling trees and scattered fire. In her hand, she carried a stolen Valori blade, silver with a glowing edge. In his hand, he carried the last data drive, its contents still uploading to deep space beacons. They reached the old defense core, buried beneath the colony's heart. Silara slammed her hand against the scanner. It blinked green. Doors hissed open. Inside was an ancient power array, something the Empire had never found. Will it work? Jace asked. Silara nodded. It's not a weapon. It's a signal booster. If we activate it, the whole galaxy will hear us. Outside, thunder roared. Closer. Above. An unexpected answer. Far across the galaxy, Rebel cells saw the transmission. One by one, they responded. Old warships came alive. Hidden bases opened. Civilians, pilots, smugglers, engineers rallied under one phrase. She chose love over fear. Now we choose freedom. The flame she lit burned faster than the Empire could contain. And it was heading straight for the rift. Cale's last order. Cale paced the bridge like a man at the edge of madness. Destroy the core, he shouted. Kill the girl. Kill the human. Burn that world to dust. But sir, the tech whispered, a dozen outer fleets just turned. They're heading this way. It's a trap. Cale spun around. I don't care. His voice cracked like fire. I will not lose to a girl who fell in love with a prisoner. Back in the core, the final countdown. Jace worked fast, hands flying over the ancient system. Almost there, he said. Just need a few more minutes. Silara stood guard at the door, eyes watching the sky. The sounds of ships landing nearby shook the ground. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. Jace turned. For what? For everything, she said. For believing them. For helping them. For waiting so long to see the truth. He stepped toward her, took her hand. You don't have to be sorry, he said. You gave everything to be here. You chose me, when the world told you not to. Silara blinked back tears. But if we die, then we die telling the truth, he said. Together. She smiled and kissed him. It wasn't a dramatic kiss. It was quiet, real, like they were already home. The final attack. Outside, soldiers stormed the ruins. Laser blasts lit the night. Silara stepped into the open, blade in hand, meeting the first wave head-on. She didn't scream. She didn't rage. She just moved with silent power, cutting, dodging, defending. She wasn't trying to win a war. She was just buying time. Time for the message to finish. Time for hope to rise. Time for truth to be louder than guns. Inside, the last upload. Jace watched the final bar, hit 100%. A chime echoed. Upload complete, the system said. The beacon pulsed. Bright. Blinding. A signal stronger than any the Empire had ever faced. And it carried not just data, but a story. Of a girl born into fire. And a man who taught her to feel. Cale's fall. From the sky, rebel ships burst through clouds, guns blazing. Cale's fleet broke apart, caught between loyalty and fear. Some surrendered. Some fled. Others were torn apart in seconds. Cale screamed in rage, but no one listened. The Empire had cracked, and it started with a single broken crown. Silara's last stand. In the middle of the rubble, she stood covered in ash, surrounded by fallen enemies. Her armor broken, her body bleeding. But she smiled, because she saw them. Coming through the sky like angels in metal. Rebel ships. Her people. Jace. She fell to her knees, and for the first time since she was a child, she let herself cry freely. Because she had finally chosen something no one could take from her. Love. Epilogue. Months later. The Empire was not dead. But it was weakened. Exposed. The galaxy changed fast. New alliances formed. Old truths were uncovered. And on a small green planet once called Lost, a new home was born. Jace and Silara built it brick by brick, planting trees that bent in silver wind. They trained others, taught peace, taught resistance, and every night, under stars that no longer felt cold, they told their story to anyone who would listen.